Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Indy's Trusted Servant Show on InspireSmall.biz. What's Indy's Trusted Servant? That's me, Danny O'Malia. I do customer service training and keynote speaking about customer service. It's all about the culture of the organization. What makes Chick-fil-A and Nordstrom better than everybody in the industry? They had great cultures and they kept them. I learned all of that from the hand of the master, my late father, Joe O'Malia, back in the O'Malia food market days. But even before that, when Joe owned a little grocery store in Broad Ripple, where the Vanguard Bar is today on Guilford Avenue, one cash register, 8 or 9 employees. One of them was a 9 and 10-year-old kid. He lost that store because he went in, borrowed a lot of money to open a second store, and that one didn't take off, and the bank came in and took both the stores. But 10 years later, he successfully launched O'Malia Food Markets with 9 stores and 950 employees, and you know the rest of that story. If you're interested in my customer service trainings and keynotings, why, give me a call at 317-413-9062. And by the way, one of my lessons I learned from Joe out of all that was never, ever, ever give up. So what's the Indy's Trusted Servant Show on InspireSmall.biz? I like to describe it as lively local small biz and community talk. And today we've got a small businessman and a great member of our community, my friend Tony Valle of Promethius Consulting. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you, Danny. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. And you are a great small businessman, and I've met you through various networking events over the years that we didn't see each other for a while, and then we bumped into each other at an Indians game, right?
Yes, we did.
So it's great to reconnect. So tell the Tony Valle story if you can, in a couple of minutes. Where are you from? How'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What'd you study? And then we'll launch into how the Promethius thing. And what did you do before Promethius, of anything?
Yes. Well, so I was raised in the Chicago area, and I'm a cradle Catholic, like yourself. So I had a great childhood and upbringing in Lisle, Illinois, which is a western suburb.
Western suburbs, yes.
And was educated in the Benedictine Catholic school system out there. I moved to Indianapolis in 2000 to start Promethius with my business partner, Denver Abernathy. Denver and I were college roommates at IU.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where is he from?
He is from Petersburg, Indiana.
Ooh, wow, that's a small town.
It is.
Yeah.
He is a farm kid, and actually I've learned over the years, farm kids, if you can work with a farm kid or somehow be involved, employees, business partners, whatever, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, my mom was a farm kid, so I know what you mean.
Yes, there you go. They understand hard work, they understand risk-taking, responsibility. What
did you do? What did you do before that, and where did you go to school?
I went to college at IU.
At IU, yeah.
Yeah, at IU Bloomington.
Yeah, okay. And you majored in?
Telecommunications, which oddly enough is kind of, it's things like video production, audio production. I learned how to work in radio stations. I worked in a television station in the Chicago area.
What'd you do there?
I did a little bit of everything, all the technical work. I worked on some talk shows. Back in the Oprah Winfrey days, believe it or not, there was a local competitor called Pat Sheffer. So I worked on her show.
Okay. A talk show, kind of a talk show. Yeah.
Yes, with all sorts of interesting guests and so forth. So I did basically everything behind the scenes. Never was on camera. So this is full circle for me here to finally be on camera. It's about time. It only took me 30 years.
Well, you did some of these before.
That's true.
Promethius, you interviewed me once.
Yes, I did a show called Who's Your Hometown Heroes, which is, in a lot of ways very similar to your format.
It is.
And I did have you on the show. I've always been a big fan of the O'Malia story.
Well, thank you.
I've heard you speak over the years. And as a business owner, as a small business owner, that what we're trying to do at Promethius is really a lot of the stuff that you talk about. In my mind, it boils down to Hoosier values. I think there's There's something about Midwestern values, especially Hoosiers, that just make us kind-hearted, well-meaning people. And I think that's a huge business advantage.
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got an awful lot of non-Hoosiers who become Hoosiers,
Yes.
right, over the years.
Yes,
and that can be a
yes.
bit of a challenge once in a while. But
Yes.
I don't know how many people I've talked to over the years who've moved here from, gosh knows, L.A., New York, whatever, telling me they were transferred here by some big corporation and they didn't want to stay, but once they got here,
Yes.
they kind of got hooked.
Yeah,
right?
now I do want to say for the record, so I was born in Bloomington, Indiana, so I get to say I'm a Hoosier.
Okay, good.
My dad, born and raised in Terre Haute, Indiana. My mom, born and raised in Hope, Indiana, a little farm
Where's
town.
Hope?
Well, you got me. It's near Columbus.
Near
Yeah,
Columbus.
It's near Columbus.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So she's a farm girl. So very much, and really all my extended family are in Indiana. So I've always felt very much like a Hoosier at heart.
So what'd you do professionally before you came here to open up Promethius 21 years ago?
Yeah, my biggest claim to fame before Promethius was also in the IT industry. I was a programmer analyst for Northern Trust Corporation, which is a big multinational bank out of Chicago. And it was very, very interesting work, very technical. I helped run a system at the bank that basically took all the daytime transactions from around the globe and then processed them overnight.
Oh, okay.
And back when I did that, the system would process about $65 billion in transactions every night. And
That's a big bank.
it was big. And if we were, and I mean this literally, if we were off by a nickel, if our counts were off by a nickel, we had to figure it out.
Just like the cash register.
And there you go. Yeah, that's a big cash register, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I literally had days where I got a call in the middle of the night saying we're off by 25 cents. And you got to help figure it out of $65 billion in transactions. So
Man, that's good training ground.
yeah.
Good training
Now, there
ground.
was one day where I showed up at work and we were off by $1 million. That was the day where guys in suits were standing there. And maybe some handcuffs too. I
That
don't
kind
know.
of reminds me of the movie Office Space for some reason.
There you go. Yeah.
So why'd you leave that? You left that to come here and
Yes.
start with Devin, right? Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Left Chicago to start Promethius in 2000, and we back in those days, IT was kind of there was a gold rush feel to it.
It was in its infancy.
It was in its infancy.
Yes.
It was kind of the Wild West, and really, I was both my business partner Denver and I were at places in our lives where we didn't have responsibility yet, we didn't have families yet, that sort of thing. And we were kind of young and naive enough to say, hey, let's go ahead and give this a try. And now I think
why Indianapolis? Was he already here or what?
he was already in Indy. I
Okay.
was in Chicago, and we decided to start the company. And we had a very brief conversation, and it went something like this. It says, well, where's it going to be, in Chicago or Indianapolis? And Denver said, I'm not moving to Chicago. I said, okay.
Way to
sounds
go,
like we
Denver.
haven't- But I couldn't be more pleased. I love Indianapolis. I knew within my first week here that this was the best decision I ever made. So
That's terrific.
yeah, I'll tell a story. I used to live in Chicago, but the last 3 or 4 years living there. I lived downtown on the lake, and I would actually walk to and from work every day. I did that
Nice.
even in the depths of winter, believe it or not. And so I was always walking the street. I never, if you can imagine, I never passed in Chicago, never passed someone that I knew. It never happened. I moved to Indy in 2000, and on day 7 of being here, I ran into someone I had met on day 3. I was downtown and ran into someone I had met on day 3 of living in Indianapolis, and I knew this is going to be great.
Well, you're saying this is a big, small town.
That's what it is, and it's a real blessing. The business community, think about how COVID affected us. All of us networking type people, we went into this big black hole for a while, but because it's such a small town feel and the business community is like a big family, it's very easy to plug back in. I think.
You know, speaking of all of that, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention that we lost one of our great leaders this week, Jerry Semler, who started American United Life. He was 83 years old, just a tremendous business person, but a tremendous person, and one of the cogs in the wheel of Indianapolis. So God bless him, and somebody that helped make Indianapolis what it is. So before we get into Promethius,
Sure.
and don't let me forget to ask you why you call it Promethius, but talk a little bit about your involvement at your parish, which I think is St. Pius, right?
St. Pius,
Yeah.
yes. I've been a member of St. Pius since 2010. And my biggest involvement there has been on parish council. I've been a member of parish council for, I think, about 5 years. I just stepped down as president of the council there.
Been there and done that.
Yeah.
And God bless you for doing it.
Yeah. It was, I probably will go down in the history books as the longest tenured president of parish council. So I was there, and then COVID happened, and that extended everyone. Father Jim was there at the time, and he said, let's put a freeze on everything, and everyone do an extra year of your term. So it's okay, of course. And then Father Jim retired.
Yeah, right.
And we got Father Francis, and it was determined he didn't want a whole lot of change, so he asked the whole council to stay on
another year.
Another year.
It's kind of like this whole college athletic eligibility with COVID. You all get another year if you want it, right?
Yes, very much. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Tony. I've had a lot of Catholic organizations on the show, and the parish is the nuts and bolts of the citywide Catholic community.
Yes.
So and I think I told you that my oldest daughter, who's had a long career in education, a lot of Catholic education, but a lot of public education too, is going to be teaching first grade at St. Pius this year.
Very exciting.
And she's good friends with, I forget your principal's name.
Keeley,
yes. Yeah. So God bless St. Pius.
Yes.
Now let's talk about Promethius. But
Sure.
first of all, tell us what you do basically, but also tell us why you and Denver decided to call it Promethius.
Absolutely. So I'll start with what we do. We basically provide a very well managed, very experienced, outsourced IT department for small and medium businesses that just don't have the wherewithal or the funding to build their own IT department. So we're just a very easy kind of all-inclusive IT department for whoever needs one.
We sold O'Malley's in 2001, but if we had not done that, and if we'd have been able to maintain, we might have been able to use you, okay? There's so many things to running a business, and when Dad started the business, there was no need for an IT department, okay, right? And for the longest time, there was no need for an IT department, but gradually you could see that it was going to be needed. Well, we were busy running the stores, right?
Yes.
And there's some interesting historical perspective here. One of the things that happened, as everybody remembers, you used to stamp the cans and the boxes, right? Well, computers came along, and all of a sudden, they had new register systems and so forth, and I'll never forget this. We had a store at 116th and Range Line down the street from a Marsh store, and Marsh put scanners in, okay? And Marsh was the first company in the world to have a scanner in a grocery store. Did you guys know that?
No, I did not know
In
that.
Troy, Ohio, they put it in one store in '74, and they put it in one store so they could test it, okay? One thing they didn't figure out was, one of the advantages was you didn't have to go to all the labor of stamping the cans, but the customers were used to having them stamped. We had people showing up in our store. This was about 1980 something, early 80s. They had been at the Marsh store and got to the checkouts, but halfway through the store they're going, I don't know what anything costs. There's no stamp. There's a P, Q whatever code.
Yeah.
But there's no. I don't. So they just left their carts and came over to our store. We weren't doing it yet. We knew some day we would, but we let them take the bullet for it.
Yes, yes.
But that was my beginning to realize, my God, this computer thing is just huge. But that's not what we do.
Yes,
So you guys started in 2000, which is a year before we sold to Marsh.
Yeah.
But so you started just the two of you.
That's right.
How many employees do you have now?
We've got 20 employees now. Most of them are kind of boots on the ground, technical people. Now we have some administrative people as well. But I think it's yes. What you said about IT is not what you do. You guys ran groceries. That's what you were great at, and that's the whole point, I think, of outsourcing IT. I think that's why it's worked so well. It allows if you imagine, so we manage somewhere around 200 computer networks around town. So if you can imagine the breadth of experience that gives us, we manage networks in all sorts of different settings.
What would be your smallest client from a number of employees standpoint, and your largest client? Don't name them. You don't have to name them, but can you help somebody with just 5 employees?
Absolutely, yeah. Our smallest client is 1 employee.
Okay, and what's your largest?
About 350 employees.
Okay, so that's a sweet spot. 1 to 350 employees, but you would do somebody with 950 employees if they needed it, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've learned, one of the reasons that we can comfortably do that is we've gotten very, very good at scaling over the years. So, every once in a while, like I was just talking to someone yesterday who has a startup. They're very hopeful about growing into something big, but right now they just have 4 employees.
Okay.
And I was able to kind of dip into our history and talk about we've taken several startups from a couple employees up to 200 or 300 employees. And we can do that pretty comfortably. If you do it right from the start, you can scale very easily. And actually, going the other way too, we've had clients, a lot of businesses are cyclical. Maybe they go from 200 employees down to 50 employees.
And then back.
Yeah, and so we can, the way we operate allows for shrinkage and growth. Whatever you need, we can very comfortably scale with you.
So why Promethius?
Right. So my business partner, Denver Abernathy, was a bit of a Greek mythology buff. And he took a mythology course in college, and somehow he locked on to this story of Prometheus being the Greek god of forethought, and he tucked it away in his brain. He decided that would be a good name for a consulting company. I think he was maybe even thinking someday if I have a company, I might use that name. So he floated the idea when we started the business. He said, I know what we should call it, Prometheus. And he explained why. And I said, well, that's better. That saves me from having to have an idea. Sounds good to me.
Now, and your logo, I think it's like Greek columns, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So how does somebody if somebody's watching this, and they say, boy, I could use some IT help.
Yeah.
I don't want to have an IT department or whatever. How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah.
Give us whatever contact information you want to share.
Yeah.
And in your website as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the easiest way is you can just call the office. Now, because of what we do, we have, you can call 24/7 anytime, day or night, and you'll speak to a live human.
Wow, I love that. I love that.
And so the number is 317-733-2388. And now if you're just kind of looking to transition, you should probably call during the daytime. Don't wait till 2 a.m. But if that's when you have free time, you will be able to talk to someone. Our website is Promethius.com, and we have the spelling is Prometius.
IUS. Why IUS? Did somebody else already have the EUS?
Well, it turns out that a lot of the Greek mythology, there are 2 different spellings.
Oh.
So this IUS is one of the 2 spellings.
And IU.
I never thought of that, Danny. That's good. That's good.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So what do you see in the future for Promethius?
Well, good question. I tell you, security has really come to the forefront. It's the biggest challenge of any organization. So we have, the way we operate, and any good IT firm operates, you try and operate like Keebler elves, right, behind the scenes. You want to be doing all these things behind the scenes to protect the networks you support. So technical things, we're putting in the correct hardware, we're configuring software correctly. But then there's this element, the weakness, the chink in the armor now is actually the end user, it's the end computer user. We're kind of in an era now where no matter how good the hardware and software you've put in place is, no matter how secure, an end user can make a mistake, click a link, a nefarious link, that sort of thing, and invite something malicious into a network. So,
and I'm guilty of that sometimes myself.
You go. Yeah. So really what we're doing more and more these days is actually educating our end users. That we just made a huge investment in a video training library. We have a very robust set of training to teach users how to spot malicious, trickery and so forth.
Well, we just got a couple of minutes left. What are some of the most egregious things you've seen along those lines?
Well, I mean, it's pretty easy, actually. I mean, I've seen entire organizations get their data is locked down and encrypted by nefarious hackers, and they're held for ransom, literally, for thousands. In some cases,
if that happens to one of your clients, can you help them get out of it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a non-issue. It should be a non-issue, but it's sad. We get a lot of calls from organizations who have just been hit. I just talked to one last week. They've said, we have ransomware. We've been attacked. And then they call us. It's like, if you were a client beforehand, we'd be in a lot better situation. So,
but you could still pull somebody out of the.
Yeah, in some cases, depending if they've been attacked, we can still save them. Yeah.
Great. Okay, give us some contact information one more time on Promethius with an IUS instead of an
the
EUS.
phone number is 317-733-2388. I'm at extension 2102 if you want to reach me directly. The website is promethius.com.
Tony Valle with Promethius, thanks for being here. Great.
Danny, thank you. It's a real honor.
It's great to have you. Next week, I'm going to bring Ryan Henry back to the microphone and the camera, and we are going to talk about the relaunch of Sparks, at which I'm proud to be one of the 3 speakers. The theme is comebacks. I'm going to talk about the Joe Amalia comeback that I described in your introduction. So we'll see you then on inspiresmall.biz.